Welcome to All Day Live. I'm Courtney Godfrey. Happy Monday, everybody. We hope you all had a wonderful weekend and that you're ready to kick off this week. Let's jump into some headlines. Vance Bolter is expected in Hennepin County Court today, less than 2 weeks after being sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years for last year's deadly lawmaker shootings. He now faces 8 state charges, including first-degree murder, which could bring life without parole if convicted. And Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty is asking Texas Governor Greg Abbott to extradite an ICE agent charged with shooting a man in North Minneapolis this past winter. In a letter sent last week, Moriarty urges Governor Abbott to sign the paperwork, claiming all legal requirements have been met. There's the letter right there that she sent. So 52-year-old Christian Castro can return to Minnesota to face charges tied to the January shooting of Julio Sosa Celis. And Mike Lindell was set to appear before an administrative law judge today after a 4th of July parade handout may have violated state election law. A complaint claims that Republican candidate for governor handed out MyPillow products labeled Mike Lindell for governor during Delano's 4th of July parade, which could violate the state's ban on giving items of value to influence voters. Today's hearing will determine whether there's probable cause for the case to move forward. And northern Minnesota's wildfire outlook continues to improve. Fire crews say the major July wildfires are now nearly 60% contained, and more boundary water entry points near Ely are reopening for day use and some overnight use as well starting this week. Meantime, firefighters are responding to a new small wildfire that sparked Sunday and remains under control. And a nationwide cyclospora outbreak has now turned deadly. Health officials in Michigan are reporting 2 deaths linked to the foodborne parasite. The first fatalities reported in this outbreak. Both people had underlying health conditions, it should be of note. Investigators are still working to identify the full source, with some illnesses tied to contaminated lettuce served at restaurants, including Taco Bell locations. Helping me out today is going to be producer Grace Henry. Grace, how was your weekend?
It was great. We did a lot of relaxing yesterday, sitting by the pool, reading a book. But we also went to Valley Fair on Saturday. So me and my boyfriend took my little sister to Valley Fair. I haven't been there in probably over 10 years, but it was so fun. It was really, really warm. But we were able to do all the rides. It was lovely. It was so much fun. How was your weekend?
Well, first of all, back to the reading the book at the pool. I forget what those days are like.
You know, I raided my mom's bookshelf and I started reading. It's called The Women. It's by Kristen Hanna. She's done like The Nightingale. I forgot what her other books are called, but it's very good. Can't recommend it enough. It's about the women who were nurses during the Vietnam War. So really sad, really heavy, but really good. You know, you just feel good after reading. I feel educated. I feel literate. You know,
yeah.
I don't know.
I'll get back to reading in like 10 years.
Yeah. Hey.
When my children don't need me. I was at the beach yesterday looking at the couple the next door neighbors were out on the beach reading a book, the older couple. As I'm like screaming at the dog, screaming at the kids. I'm like, sorry for disturbing your nice quiet time. But I was a little jealous watching them. So when I hear you say, oh, we just read a book by the pool.
Yep,
I'm like, there's no relaxing trip to the pool anymore for me, Grace.
No.
I miss those days. I can't wait for them to return. But also I'm soaking up the current times because we've got 2 swimmers, and it's pretty fun to watch them advance every summer. So it's always fun. And we've got our son who is very close to standing up on water skis. He is 6. And yesterday he got so close, but he blamed me. I was the one who was in the water with him because he's at that age where he still needs somebody in the water to help him. And he blamed me. He's like, Mommy knocked off my ski. It's all my fault, Grace. So I can't do anything right.
How dare you, Courtney?
Can't read a book and can't be a helpful water ski mom either. So.
But you are such a fun mom. And you were telling me earlier you took your kids to a hibachi restaurant and then to the Minions movie. I mean,
whoop it up.
Yeah, living it up.
Teach them young about the sake in the mouth at the hibachi restaurant. You know.
Yep.
They were like, "What's that, Mommy?" I'm like, "It's mommy juice, honey. Don't worry about it."
You don't want it. It's spicy. Just tell them it's spicy.
Anyway, okay, Grace is going to be here throughout the day helping us out. We are going to have a conversation with City Council member Mike Rainville in just a bit. He just texted me saying that he's ready. So I think we'll be able to bring you that after the break. He is warning that a 13% property tax increase could be coming for Minneapolis residents as they look at a $30 million budget shortfall. That conversation is going to be up next. Stay with us. Welcome back. The city of Minneapolis is currently looking at a $30 million budget shortfall heading into next year, and one city council member is sounding the alarm bells, warning that taxpayers could be footing much of the bill if cuts aren't made. Ward 3 City Council member Mike Rainville joins us now. Mike, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Courtney.
Okay, so you're warning of a 13% property tax increase. 13%.
Mm-hmm. And that would be on top of the 8% increase last year.
Wow. Okay, and why do you say that property taxes could go up 13%?
Well, it's a combination of many things, but leading it is the devaluation of the office towers in downtown Minneapolis. Basically, every time one gets sold, they get sold at a steep discount, and so we lose tax dollars. A current example is the old Amorprise building on 2nd Avenue and 7th Street. It was valued at $200 million in 2016, so you would have hoped it appreciated a little bit, but it sold for $6 million, a 97% discount off that price. Thus, their property taxes have dropped 97%.
So a loss of commercial business has really hurt the city's bottom line. What about workers not returning to downtown? I mean, we know that a lot of corporations have, started to bring people back downtown, but some left during the pandemic and never came back.
Yes, you're right about that as well. The value of the buildings is being driven down because the occupancy is being driven down. So companies that went to the work from home have really hurt downtown Minneapolis. But the good news is companies like Wells Fargo, US Bank, Target, they're all bringing people back. And to their credit, they say that job performance reviews will be contingent on time in the office. And if you think about it, Courtney, a junior level, entry level person needs to learn from those more seasoned veterans that are down the hallway from them. You can't learn from another person over the internet or on a phone call. You have to have that face-to-face conversation. That's what's been missing in downtown, and that's what's coming back.
It is coming back, but not enough. I mean, the county assessor's office would show that you've lost a lot over the last 6 years. So how do you make up for that? I know that City Hall is working hard at trying to make up for those losses.
Yeah, so let's put a number on that first, Courtney. From 2022, which is the peak of the valuations in downtown and thus the property tax revenue, to 26 in just 4 years, we've lost $54 million in revenue. And that's on a general fund. We try to get a little over 500 million out of our property tax to run the city because we have expenses. It's expensive to run the city of Minneapolis, but that's an over 10% shortage right there, and it's going down. So that's why we as a city need to do what every company has been doing, every individual, every household, which is tighten the belt. We have to look at all of our expenses, every one of them, no sacred cows, and decide what are the core missions of this city.
Yeah, I mean, the offices that are leaving downtown are facing some of the same challenges that City Hall is. Higher costs associated with city employees, plus inflation. How are you guys tackling that?
Well, you're right. You've done your homework. Our healthcare, we have healthcare expense for 4,000 employees. That's all gone up. We've been given raises because inflation's been terrible. That's gone up. Equipment purchases have gone up. And at the same time, our revenues are declining. It is so unfair to take that burden that's missing right now and place them on low income and fixed income residents, as well as these small commercial buildings out in the neighborhoods, these business districts. If you own a little store out there, or, a hardware store or a restaurant, you feel that tax burden as well. And that drives up the cost of living for everybody.
What about Operation Metro Surge? I heard that some of this budget shortfall is due to all the overtime during Operation Metro Surge.
Yes, during Operation Metro Surge, we didn't know what was going to happen in the city, especially with the horrible deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. We were fearful of another uprising like we had in 2020, the burning down of the buildings on Lake Street and other parts of Minneapolis, West Broadway. That was the largest amount of property damage ever done to a city during a riot, with the exception of Los Angeles and the Watts riots way back when. So we made a decision to protect people and property from anything, and that there was an expense to that. When the federal government came in here, they were raising Cain with everybody, and we had to do something. We had to make a decision. We did not want Lake Street, Nicollet, our other business districts burned down again, looted, like in 2020. And that's why those costs have gone up.
Well, I know your adversaries on the city council would say, well, we won't need to raise taxes if we didn't, have so much police overtime. What do you say to that?
Well, police overtime, what is that? A big part of that is the 911 responders. So those are the officers in the squad cars. On any given day in Minneapolis, half of those police driving to keep us safe are on overtime because we're so short. I wish my fellow council members would truly understand and admit, I think they understand, but I wish they would admit that these overtime costs are totally driven by the shortage of police. If you remember, we had a little over 900 police back in May of 2020. After the terrible murder of George Floyd, there was a big exodus of police officers. We're looking at a little over 600 now. So we're easily 33% short of it. And in fact, Chief Arredondo back in 2018 did a study for the council about what the police amount should be, the force, how many employees. He came back with 1,200. So if you in 2024, well, this is 2026. 2 years later, compare that 1,200 against the 600. That means we're half under.
So when we talk about 13%, you know, the potential that property taxes go up 13%, that's a lot. The mayor's office has not confirmed this number. They say they're still, you know, trying to work things out. What needs to happen for the mayor's office to work things out so that we don't see a 13% increase in property taxes? Because that's going to hit a lot of pocketbooks hard.
Sure. So in my private conversations with the mayor, his staff, other council members, I have the view that just as every household, every person, every business, whether you're downtown in the neighborhood, you have to make tough decisions and understand what your core mission is. They've all had to tighten their belt. They've had to make sacrifices. It's our time to do that now as a city, because we cannot keep putting that tax burden on our residents, especially our low income and fixed income residents. I hear all the time when I'm out in the community, people are literally being forced to move. And then you throw on things like home insurance, which every renter pays. They pay it through the rent. Utilities, you know, electricity. It's things are just going up. Food. We've all been in a grocery store. We're in a tough time here in America and in Minneapolis.
Since I have you here, I also want to ask you about a few other things happening in your district. There's a proposed data center that might be going in the old Star Tribune printing plant. I know that you talked to one of our reporters earlier today about this. It is your district. There's a lot of concern, you know, environmental concern, noise concern about this data plant going in the North Loop. What can you tell us?
Well, I know very little because the sale is pending. It's proposed, but the final documents haven't been signed. I have a call into the potential buyer to just find out, you know, more details, more questions. But the whole subject of data centers, we have an excellent staff here in the city of Minneapolis, and our planning staff and zoning staff are now going over a new ordinance with a fine-tooth comb. How do we have an ordinance based on facts, not fears? Because data centers are here to stay. In fact, we really should be calling them computer centers, because that's all they are, is the new generation of technology for computing centers. Whether you're a bank, a railroad, airline, a doctor, you all use those. And we have to craft an ordinance that protects our water. We do have surplus water right now in downtown supply. And my understanding is these data centers are on a closed water loop, so that pollution is not going anywhere. And we have electrical capacity as well. That printing plant has a lot of electricity going in there to drive the printing presses. And all over the country, these newspaper plants that are no longer there, they're producing buggy whips in the age of automobiles. They're a relic of the past. They're being reused as data centers, housing, retail, open space. That plant is right by the river. What can be done there? That's my goal, my quest to find out how well that can be developed.
Well, we know that there still is a zoning process that they have to go through. They're going to have to pass all kinds of regulations, those things. But considering the current budget situation the city of Minneapolis is in, you know you're going to face pushback on this data center. Is the city in a position to turn down business with a $30 million budget shortfall, even if it is something as controversial as a data center?
Right. So, you know, common sense says get the facts and make a decision based on facts, not fears. And I'll go to a building that's converted lately, ironically by the same company that has the purchase agreement. It hasn't bought it yet, haven't signed off yet. But they did the Sleep Number building, which was an old American Express building. It was basically emptied out by American Express. The assessor valued it at $30 million, was purchased for $20 million. And 2 years later, with the addition of 2 of the 8 floors having a computer center on it, it sold for $235 million. It increased in value by over $200 million. That is something that we have to consider. It does not draw excess water. It draws as much water as a mid-sized apartment building. The electricity doesn't hurt anybody's electric bills. And because we're a northern climate, they can use air cooling from October through March, which cuts down on water usage even more.
Okay. Mike Rainville, we so appreciate you making the time today.
Always. Give me a call anytime, Courtney.
We don't turn that down. Come on the show anytime. Councilmember Rainville, appreciate you chatting today. And just on that note, as we were talking to him about this potential for a 13% property tax increase, we mentioned that the mayor's office has not confirmed that number. They say they are still talking to departments within the city to try and find a way forward without having to make too many cuts and without having to raise property taxes. But we should be getting word from the city on what he will be proposing for his budget on August 12th. So he'll be giving his budget presentation August 12th. The city is expected to hold meetings and public hearings before the budget is finalized in December. So a long way to go before anything would be put in place. But as we mentioned, Councilmember Rainville warning that property taxes could be going up. We're going to take it to a quick break now, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back. Well, you just heard us talking about the data center that's proposed for downtown Minneapolis. A Virginia-based developer, Legacy Investing, has signed a purchase agreement to buy the Old Star Tribune printing plant. And yes, part of their plans include a data center. Very controversial. Emily Pofall, Fox 9 reporter, joins us now to talk about this. Emily, what's going on down there in the North Loop?
Well, like you said, there's a new deal on the table for a data center to potentially move into this old Star Tribune printing facility. We've spoken to the downtown council's CEO, who is looking for investment in the area, and so sees this certainly as a positive move for the neighborhood. But of course, with the concerns that we hear from other communities that are wrapped up into this data center boom, those concerns around noise, around water usage, around electricity usage. It's not necessarily welcome news for those people with those concerns in this community. So a lot of the deal is yet to be explained publicly. There's not much publicly available on the details of exactly how this is going to shake out. But like you said, we do know that Virginia-based data center developer signed an agreement to build here in the facility, and part of their plans do include a data center.
Emily, it wouldn't be the only data center in downtown Minneapolis. There are other data centers in Minneapolis.
Right. So that's one thing that the downtown council CEO really wanted to hit on in his conversation with me earlier, is that when we say data center, we don't always mean these hyperscale mega data centers that you're seeing that are hundreds of acres, that are huge resource takers from these communities. There are at least a dozen or so downtown already, including one in the Sleep Number building downtown. That's a data center that's been able to actually increase the valuation of that property, which of course these business leaders downtown are like really looking for right now. Sometimes, like I said, these aren't hyperscale data centers. These are smaller facilities that are maybe a dozen or so acres, and they're not using quite the same amount of resources that we see in those bigger projects.
Yeah, that Sleep Number building on 3rd Avenue South sold for 8 times its prior assessed value after the data center went in. So the data center arguably increased the value exponentially of that building after going in. So when we talk about, obviously this is going to be controversial. Personal note, I actually used to live in the building right next door, and I'm still a member of that neighborhood association chain, and I've already seen people saying, they're organizing to speak out against this because of their environmental concerns. I know that this is in the very early stages, so what needs to happen before this actually starts to take shape, and what options are available to those neighbors who are concerned?
Well, that's something that the city council has heard a lot from constituents. I was just on the phone with the council member that supported this data center moratorium that the city has in place right now, actually. And part of why they put that moratorium in place was so that council members could hear from city staff about what kind of regulatory framework the city is able to put in place to provide some guarantees to concerned neighbors living by these data centers that their quality of life isn't going to go down, that they're not going to have undue noise. And I mentioned that moratorium. So there is a rule right now where data centers that are any larger than 350,000 square feet cannot be built downtown or in Minneapolis elsewhere. This building behind me is 500,000 square feet. From talking to the downtown council CEO, he's heard that the plans do include some kind of mixed use facility. So the data center will be part of the building, but he also hopes to see maybe some residential going into the building as well, or retail. This is prime real estate here along the river. So like that's another concern that the council member I was speaking to brought up, is just, is this project the right fit for such a beautiful spot? She calls this prime real estate in the area. And all of that is kind of yet to shake out those details as to, are we going to be able to have some kind of mixed use where, yes, there is the data center there, but there's also somewhere that people can have a third space to go grab a coffee or go to a shop or sit outside. All of that is yet to be found out, but there is that moratorium in place until November on those very large data centers, and the city is actively working on figuring out what kind of regulations they have the power to put in place there.
Yeah, it's certainly a wonderful location. It's a beautiful, beautiful location there in downtown Minneapolis along the river. So unique location for a data center for sure. Emily Pofall with Fox 9, I so appreciate you filling us in on the latest on this. Thanks.
Right, you're welcome.
Like Emily mentioned, there is a 6-month moratorium in place right now running until November that won't allow the construction of any new data center in Minneapolis. Data centers are allowed if they are under 350,000 square feet. So because we don't have the plans for this one yet, we don't know if it would be underneath that threshold or if it would still fall in that 6-month moratorium. So we will find out as details become available. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. I'm Courtney Godfrey. Happy Monday, everybody. We hope you had a wonderful weekend. You know, when we come in on Monday, there's a lot of things making headlines that we want to talk about. So I bring in my producer, Grace Henry, who loves to talk all current events with me. Don't you, Grace?
I sure do. I love some pop culture, some good talkers, as we like to call them.
Talkers. So the Zac Brown Band, they're a very popular country music band.
Yeah.
They gave all the audience members at their Fenway show this past weekend, Fenway Park on August 7th, cruise tickets. So they're giving away 2 tickets to every concert goer to go on a cruise. Wow.
35,000 people got free cruise tickets to the Margaritaville at Sea collab that the Zac Brown Band is having. That's
valued at more than $40 million,
yes.
which they say is coming right out of Zach Brown's pocket.
When I read this headline, I was like, no way. No way.
So I guess he's been doing this on his tour. So during the Love and Fear tour, Margaritaville at Sea, which is Jimmy Buffett's cruise, sounds amazing for any parrot heads out there.
Yeah.
I think my dad's watching. He'd love this. So Margaritaville at Sea has been giving away 4 cruises for 2 people at every tour stop. Okay, reasonable.
Yep.
I don't know what came over Zach Brown when he was in Fenway, but yeah, he decided everybody in the entire stadium was getting a ticket on this boat.
He was touched by the spirit of Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett came over his body and just told him to give away $40 million worth of a cruising. I mean, that's so generous. I mean, that's a indication that they really love their fans, you know?
Well, yeah, so I guess it is obviously it's a promotional thing with Margaritaville at Sea, but they said that Zach Brown is, I mean, obviously they're probably getting a deal. They're not going to be paying the full price ticket, but he's footing a lot of this bill from what I can find online. Even if he got a deal from Jimmy's team, he's footing the bill, and I honestly am very disappointed that I wasn't at that concert this past weekend, because girl, I could use a tropical vacation. I want to be lost in Margaritaville, okay? I want to be lost in Margaritaville on a Tuesday, cruising the Caribbean.
Yeah, I can't speak today, it's Monday, but it's going to be on January 28th.
Perfect.
Margaritaville at Sea will be making history. It'll, for the first time ever, there's 3 ships that'll come together in Nassau for an unforgettable celebration where the Zach Brown Band will actually be performing in Nassau at the Cruiseport Amphitheater, and only for Margaritaville at Sea guests.
Honestly, I don't care if I have to pay my airfare down there, if they serve me burgers for every meal. It's a free cruise in the Bahamas. You're getting a Zach Brown concert. I just want to know if everyone who went to Fenway this weekend is okay. Like, are they recovered? Because this is probably the best thing they've ever won in their life.
But imagine if you had plans that day. Imagine you had plans on January 28th. I wonder if people are going to try to resell these, or if there was like a certain contingency, like you are the people that have to go on this cruise, because some people are very anti-cruise. There's some people
or
out
like
there
their daughter's getting married.
Exactly.
Who knows?
Yes. So January 28th, which is, like, in my opinion, the perfect time to take a tropical vacation. Get out of the winter weather. I'm not sure if I think there might be tickets still available. Again, it's 3 ships that are all going to be meeting in Nassau for the big Zach Brown Band.
I'm
celebration.
shook. I'm shook by this, Grace. I can't believe this.
They're the new modern day Oprahs. You know, you
Truly.
get a car, you get a cruise, you get a cruise.
Truly.
I don't know.
Wow.
How fun for them to be able to do that. I can only imagine what the vibe was like inside that concert.
When he announced it, I would love to see video.
We should have.
I didn't have time to see. I've got other things going on.
We're busy.
In other entertainment news, Ariana Grande doing quite the opposite of the Zach Brown Band. She is stepping away from the spotlight. So in recent months, I'd say the last year, there's been a lot of concern about her body. You know, she looks extremely skinny. People are very concerned about, you know, her health.
Yep.
And so she has chosen to step away.
Yeah, she says that she's going to wrap up the tour that she's on. But she was supposed to star in a musical in the West End in London, which is basically London's Broadway, a show by Stephen Sondheim called Sunday in the Park with George, with Jonathan Bailey, who was her co-star in the Wicked films as Fiyero. And I was really excited about this musical. I love Stephen Sondheim. I mean, Ariana Grande, she was on Broadway as a young girl, but, you know, it'd be so cool to see her live in a, you know, performing in a Broadway show rather than as a pop star. So I'm really bummed about this news because it just seemed like a really cool opportunity for her, but there are a lot of people on social media that are expressing their concern. And I watched the music video that kind of sparked a lot of People,
Petals, right?
Yeah, Petal is the music video, and the entire YouTube comment section was just, "Is she okay? I hope she's getting the support that she needs." But yeah, so really, really sad news with Ariana Grande.
Yeah, so her publicist said Ariana will be taking a step back from visibility after she completes the Eternal Sunshine tour that concludes September 1st in London. It goes on to say that she looks forward to finishing the tour and ending it on a high note, both healthily and happily, which kind of sounds like maybe they're trying to dispel the rumors about her health.
Yeah.
And then taking a much-deserved break from public-facing work and appearances, which has led to endless, ongoing public scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. You Google Ariana Grande, and all that comes up are concerns around her body and how she looks. So. My best wishes to her. I hope maybe in the future she'll be able to either return to Broadway or go to the West End and do theater, because I know that she's talked about that being a really big passion of hers. But we do have Andrew Dukowitz on the line, so maybe we pivot to talking some links.
Yeah, and I just want to note, if anyone is struggling with an eating disorder, the Emily program is always available to help. Their number is 888-364-5977, and they are a wonderful resource for anyone struggling with eating disorders. Shall we take a quick break? Let's take a quick break, and then we will bring on Andrew Dukowitz to talk all about that game against the Fever and Lynx yesterday. Exciting game. Also came with quite a bit of controversy. We're going to talk to Dukes right after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on this Monday afternoon, on the most Monday of Mondays, it feels. Yesterday, the Fever were in town taking on the Lynx. The Lynx beat them 108-100, but man, was it a big game. Lots of people came out to see not only the Lynx stars, but of course, Caitlin Clark in town. That always brings out the crowd. Here to talk all about the game and all the controversy around it, Andrew Dukowitz with Sports Illustrated and Zone coverage. Andrew, man, you were all over Twitter yesterday. Lots of trolls coming at you left and right. Are you all right?
Twitter trolls boost the algorithm, and that leads to more clicks, more awareness, all that stuff. So trolls don't bother me.
Perfect. Love to hear it. Let's jump right into the TMZ portion of this show, because There was a great game, and we'll talk about all the players, and you know, it was a close game, 108 to 100. But first, let's talk about the controversy. So obviously, Sophie Cunningham was in town. She's become controversial with the comments that she has made about transgender athletes in women's sports. Cheryl Reeve wore a shirt to the game that clearly was in response to Sophie's comments. And then we see Cheryl and Sophie talking on the court. Can you just get us up to speed? There were protests outside. You know, can you get us up to speed about everything that was happening yesterday? My goodness.
Yeah, it started about a month ago, actually. And I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a expert on the trans youth sports rules and regulations for women or boys youth athletics, but there was some recent legislation that happened limiting trans ability to play sports in certain states. And one of the reporters that's on the beat asked Cheryl just her thoughts on it, and Cheryl gave a answer not quite as long as her one on Saturday, but the same kind of key points of, you know, this is an issue that isn't the largest women's rights issue in the world. It's something that, you know, you'd hope that all the smart people in local government and school districts and all of that would be able to put their heads together and solve on a case-by-case basis. And, you know, fine answer. Cheryl's all about inclusivity. You know, obviously any kid that wants to play sports, I think all of us would like to find a way to help that kid play sports. And that's where Cheryl kind of left it. All-Star weekend happens. Sophie Cunningham has this, you know, comment about, you know, trans athletes not being allowed or shouldn't be allowed to play in women's sports. That generated all of this hoopla online. To where every WNBA coach and most of the WNBA players are being asked about her comments. You know, we decided as a press group, we kind of talked about it of, do we want to bring this up with Cheryl again? And on Saturday, we decided to bring it up with Cheryl again. And she gave a 5-minute answer of, you know, not only her thoughts about it, but how important protesting and voicing opinions and communicating and all of kind of hit every topic you'd want a leader in a community to hit on. That brings us up to the game. There was some protests and counter protests outside of Target Center. From what I understand, it was really quite peaceful. I think there was at one point someone tried to steal a sign or something, but no violence, nothing crazy happened. Cheryl and Sophie talked pregame, and Cheryl wore the shirt of Trans Kids Belong, which is pretty in line with her beliefs of just everybody belongs. Like no one should really be excluded, especially kids, like kind of regardless of, I think, what your beliefs are. Cheryl's point is just everyone belongs and everyone should have the opportunity to play sports.
So we saw Sophie and Cheryl. I mean, the videos are all over social media of them chatting on the court pre-game. I would love to get a lip reader to tell me what they were saying, but haven't seen that yet. You asked Coach Reeve about it after the game. You said, care to share what you guys talked about? And she said, no, I don't.
3 years of asking Cheryl about WWE and all of the random things you can think of. We've built a pretty good rapport to where she didn't want to share what they were talking about, but she did again stress the importance of talking just in face with people and also listening and hearing different sides and the importance of platforms and educating people. So pretty on brand for Cheryl to keep what they talked about, you know, as far as X's and O's close to the vest, but she did at least offer up that it's important to have those conversations, even if they're uncomfortable.
All right, good on you. I loved hearing your voice at the press conference, and you were asking the question everybody wanted to ask. Lots of celebrities at this game yesterday. I guess people were coming to me. Did I see you tweet that 50 Cent was there?
Yeah, I believe 50 Cent was in his seat. He normally has a seat next to where Julius Randle's family used to sit. Justin Vernon was there as well, the musician from Wisconsin. A couple WWE superstars. A-Rod was there. It got some big names in the Target Center, which in August is kind of surprising. Most people want to be on the lake this time of year.
Well, when Caitlin Clark comes to town, did they have the upper deck open?
They did. So the interesting thing with the Lynx this year is they've been slowly opening it throughout the season. They started off by just having, the first 5 rows open in certain sections, and then Lynx fans packed those up, and then they opened up the mid arena kind of base or center court line sections up there, and the Lynx have been packing that up. So this game they opened the whole thing, and I think the official attendance was 16,505, which a lot of people, almost a capacity sellout. But the Lynx this year have been getting about 12,500, 13,000 fans in there pretty regularly. So it was definitely noticeable how many Fever fans were there, but also just it's just cool to see that place filled, especially for WNBA games.
Yeah, probably 2 of the most popular WNBA teams. So when they play, they're going to draw a big crowd. What was it like seeing Olivia Miles take on Caitlin Clark? I mean, she's breaking some of her records. She'd like to break more of them, a lot of her rookie records, I mean. But what was that like, seeing the 2 of them play together? Or against each other, I should say.
I mean, it's just fun, right? That's kind of the tagline I've been saying all last week leading up into this game, is just whatever's going on outside of basketball. If you can just suspend that for 3 hours or 2.5 hours, like the game was a blast. Kelsey Mitchell from Indiana was unbelievable. Again, Olivia Miles had one of the better first halves of basketball I think we've seen her play, and that's saying a lot. Caitlin Clark came on late and hit some just insane shots. Fee had big moments. Court had big moments. And for that to be, a nationally televised game where the crowd is incredible, and again, I'd say it's probably half Fever, half Lynx fans. No fights. No, I think most people were just cheering after every basket, regardless of who it was, because it was such an enjoyable basketball game. And, you see those 2 play in particular, much like watching Paige and Olivia play. It's just a glimpse into this is going to be the next 15 years for this league, is just Caitlin, Paige, and Olivia kind of bringing back the point guard position, which has disappeared from basketball. So it was incredible. I don't know how it translated coming across the TV, but in arena, it was. I would encourage people, if you haven't been to a Lynx game yet, the Fever are coming to town again in September. It's a good hang and a good vibe.
Yeah, the tickets were a little expensive for me and the kids, but so maybe a game against a less
The Sparks are coming;
team.
those should be cheap.
Right. It's like you got to pay to see the good games. The clip that, because you mentioned, how it came across on TV. The clip that I keep seeing on social media that's getting a lot of play is this elbow to the face. Sophie Cunningham got an elbow to the face by one of the Lynx players that was controversial. I don't know if that was actually controversial or if Twitter is making it controversial. Please tell me.
Yeah, that one I think is more of just the still photo of it makes it look a lot worse than it was. If you watch the entire play, it was just a basketball play. Sophie was kind of in the offensive player's space, ended up getting the foul called on her. They looked to review it for a flagrant, decided it wasn't a flagrant because, the Lynx player just made a basketball move, kind of trying to get space opened back up. There was I think there was another one where Liv undercut one of the Fever players, and that one was pretty similar, where you just watch that one in even in slow motion, and it's like, oh, they were just competing. Neither of these teams are really dirty teams, so I think they also get the benefit of the doubt of, Kayla McBride's never been known as a dirty player over 11 years. Caitlin Clark's not really known as a dirty player. Leah Boston isn't either. So yeah, I think it was a lot to do about nothing, but yeah, when you just take one picture out of a clip, it can look pretty rough.
Well, and I was just watching the Twitter feed, so I'm watching the Twitter feed going, oh my gosh, what's going on at the Target Center? Anyway, yeah, very interesting. It was nice to see players on both teams being really complimentary to the other team in those post-game press conferences, so that was fun. All right, Andrew, I hear that we've got a press conference we got to get to, so I appreciate you making the time today. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it as always.
All right. That was Andrew Dukowitz with Sports Illustrated and Zone coverage. All right, Grace, it sounds like we have Kash Patel holding a press conference right now in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yep, it's basically just a round table with law enforcement officers covering issues directly impacting Wisconsin law enforcement. So let's take a listen to that. We have Kash Patel taking some reporter questions, it looks like. And yeah, we'll dip into that really quickly.
Taken off. We are already seizing hundreds of billions of fraud actors and money from around the world. Truly remarkable work for just a 4-6 month period. On the scam compound centers, that's a different type of fraud that's going after Americans' pensions and their life savings and their kids' college tuitions from places like Cambodia and Thailand. So our international relationships, thanks to President Trump, have allowed us to go overseas and annihilate these scam compounds and literally cut off their capability to communicate with our partnerships in the private sector. But for citizens and law enforcement, it's what the congressman was saying here. You got to let us know. You got to let us know the second it happens. And again, we know that it might be a little embarrassing or uncomfortable, but if you talk to us about it, we can come in early. And it's not just happening to you. It's happening to people across Wisconsin and across America. And the more information we have, they are all connected to one form of scam compound fraud overseas in one way or the other. The state and local community comes together with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and we are able to put that into one place and defend against it, and most importantly, return the money to our elders.
Governor Evers has refused to release the voter registration lists and the SNAP Medicaid data. What options are there for Congress or for the FBI or the administration to get those, despite that blockage?
Well, I would prefer that Governor Evers listen to the people in the state of Wisconsin. So my fellow Wisconsinites do not want to be spending millions, tens of millions, over the years, billions of dollars on fraudsters. We want every single tax dollar that is allocated to feed a hungry child to go to the hungry child. We want every single dollar that is allocated to purchase medical equipment, like a hospice bed, so someone can do home hospice. We want it to go to that person, to that piece of equipment, so that that family can grieve together in their home, as opposed to someone taking this money, like they did in Milwaukee, and buy lavish gifts for themselves. So I would implore Governor Evers to put aside his politics, because that's all this is about, and turn over these roles so that we can do the appropriate amount from the executive branch enforcement of this, because fraud is taking place in the state of Wisconsin. Governor Evers knows it. That's why he's not releasing these lists.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, another thing that was talked about at the very end was just in regards to training. I think it was addressed amid kind of some budget shortfalls, working to make sure that law enforcement officers are trained and they have the resources necessary to do their job in the communities. On a federal level, what work can be done, or how is the federal government helping these law enforcement agencies to ensure that their officers are doing the best job that they can?
Well, essentially the FBI budget has been frozen for a long period of time, and that's on Congress. And it's my responsibility to make sure that the director has all the resources that he needs, because a lot of those resources go from the FBI to the local and state agencies through training, as you mentioned. So when I get back to D.C., we've got to make sure I'll be with the Appropriations Committee, making sure that the FBI's budget actually gets plussed up to the point where they can perform the functions that they need to do to protect American citizens.
Okay. Going once, going twice. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
All right, you were just listening to FBI Director Kash Patel, joined there with Congressman Derek Van Orden. They were hosting a roundtable in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They were in discussion with law enforcement officers from across Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District. I'm just reading here from the actual press release about the event. The event was set to bring together federal, state, and local law enforcement officials to discuss the challenges they face on the ground and how Congress and federal law enforcement can better support Wisconsin communities. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Happy Monday, everybody. Let's take a quick check of your headlines. Well, Vance Bolter is expected in Hennepin County Court today, less than 2 weeks after being sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years in his federal case. He now faces 8 state charges, including first-degree murder, which could bring life without parole if convicted. Obviously, he is already serving those life sentences in federal prison as a result of the lawmaker shootings that killed Melissa Hortman and her husband. This is just the state charges on top of that. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty is asking Texas Governor Greg Abbott to extradite an ICE agent charged in shooting an individual in North Minneapolis this past winter. In a letter sent last week, Moriarty urges Abbott to sign the paperwork claiming all legal requirements have been met so that 52-year-old Christian Castro can return to Minnesota to face charges tied to that January shooting. Mike Lindell was set to appear in an administrative law court today after a 4th of July parade handout may have violated state election law. A complaint claims the Republican candidate for governor handed out MyPillow products labeled Mike Lindell for governor during a Delano 4th of July parade, which could violate the state's ban on giving items of value to influence voters. Today's hearing will determine whether there's probable cause for the case to move forward. And northern Minnesota's wildfire outlook continues to improve. Fire crews say the major July wildfires are now 60% contained, and more boundary water entry points near Ely are reopening for day use and some overnight trips starting this week. Meantime, firefighters are responding to a new small wildfire that sparked Sunday and remains under control. And a nationwide cyclospora outbreak has now turned deadly. Health officials in Michigan are reporting 2 deaths linked to the foodborne parasite, the first fatalities reported in this outbreak. Both people had underlying health conditions, and investigators are still working to identify the full source, with some illnesses linked to lettuce served at restaurants, including some Taco Bell locations. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we are going to have our weekly guest, Dr. Madeline Gagnon, come in and talk about best advice for sending your kids off to college. So the 5 things she says you need to know before you send your kids off. We're going to do that after the break. Stay right there. Welcome back. Well, for many families, this time of year brings big transitions. Sending a child off to college. It can be an exciting milestone, but also an emotional one for both the child and for the families. Here to help us navigate the transition is parenting strategist and founder of Pulse Parents, Dr. Madeline Gagnon. Dr. Gagnon, thanks for coming on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you have 5 conversations that every parent should be having with their teens before they leave. Let's start with number 1, independence and expectations.
Yeah, I think, what happens so often is the prep for college becomes about the bedding and the books and the U-Haul and the flight there, that it often gets overshadowed by what a huge milestone it is in terms of just young adulting. And so I think the first conversation that parents really need to hone in on is this newfound real independence. Like, this is the first time your kid's really going to have to do their own adult management. And where I see young adults struggle most is with time management. All of a sudden, no one's really micromanaging. When are you home? Did you turn that assignment in? And that can be really overwhelming for a young adult. So really talking to them about the time management, not only of the academics versus friends versus, avid social life, but just all the other basics, like how to refill your albuterol inhaler, or how to, manage Bank of America deposits, or, just all those kind of basic things that so many parents today take care of for their teens.
Where do you draw the line of mom or dad calling and checking in and saying, hey, I checked your bank account, you're really close to being overdrawn, or, I checked your schedule, it looks like you're a little busy on Mondays, maybe you should back it up. Where do you draw the line in stepping in once they've already left?
Well, your kids and your teens' preparedness, right? You knew how much they could take on as a senior in high school, for example. So helping that transition. If you had a wildly independent teenager, they may not need any kind of micromanagement or oversight. If you've had someone who really kind of in a laddered approach needed more supports as years went on, I wouldn't just drop that support as we start here in the fall, but perhaps kind of scale that through various quarters as the year goes on.
Okay, so just kind of talking to them about how are we going to manage your newfound freedom?
Correct. Right.
Not just sending them off into the world and hoping they figure it out.
Right. And there's so many things that parents don't think about. Like we said, the prescription refills, or, did they get the right debit card, or basic kind of management things that even parents are forgetting to ensure their young adult knows.
And normalizing stress and homesickness is something that you think you should talk about ahead of time.
Well, interestingly, UCLA did a study that showed that over 70% of college students in the first year experience homesickness. Washington University did the same study and showed over 91%. Statistics aside, that shows that most college kids experience homesickness. Now, this conversation, I almost say, is directed to parents. Don't panic, right? You're invariably probably going to get a phone call from your son or daughter, and they may be overwhelmed. They may be in tears. They maybe think this is the wrong choice. To not necessarily knee-jerk react to that. Should I drive down? Should I rescue them? Should they fly home for the weekend? Really just providing some degree of reassurance that this is a big transition. It's normal to feel unsure. And as college kids get more plugged into their friends, new routine, we see those feelings dissipate. That's not to underscore that if you think your child is really suffering with anxiety and depression, seek proper supports. But by and large, it is normal that you're going to get at least one call or text that has the shadows of homesickness, and to not be thrown off by that, to expect that.
So what should you do when your son or daughter calls and says, yeah, I've been having a great time, but I miss you, Mom? What do you do?
Well, one, be glad they missed you, right? You're doing something right. But I think also just a listening ear. I hear you, because there's also probably a lot of other things at play. They're fatigued. They're not getting enough sleep. They were out late the night before. They're overwhelmed because they have their first test on Monday. There may be other contributing stressors, too, that are kind of fueling this fire. So just listening, helping them kind of see the trees from the forest of saying, hey, this is all new. Let's just take it a day at a time. Encouraging them to get connected in their routines and their friendships, which is why I would refrain in those first 10 weeks, especially from trying to kind of come in and say, oh, why don't you come home this weekend? Or I'll fly down and take you out to lunch. Try to kind of pull back from kind of that rescuing and a little bit of push.
That's tough, Maddie. I think my instinct would be get on the first flight.
Mine too, but my better judgment as a pediatrician tells me pull back.
So give them some space to figure it out. Maybe
Yeah.
check in with them the next day. Say, hey, how
Absolutely.
you doing after that conversation we had?
Yeah.
Okay, good advice. Relationships and intimacy. We've talked about this here on the show. This is a conversation that I think gets missed a lot with parents, but an important one.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So buckle up on this one. We do know that about 1 in 6 women and 1 in 16 men are subject to either attempted or completed sexual assault. We see most sexual assaults happen within the first year of college. And kind of alarmingly, we see that happen most often in the fall season. So that August to November of that first year of college. So I think first and foremost, just arm your kids with knowledge that, listen, this can happen. It is more prevalent on college campuses as school's starting. There are multiple factors that can add to risks of being in those situations, but be mindful that that can happen. If you're in a situation like that, how are different strategies to handle those situations and kind of what are next steps from that? But at least if you're talking about that, you're getting your college student thinking about, oh, I didn't even realize that could be the case. I thought this college was safe. It doesn't mean it's not safe. It just means being smart about what's out there. I will also say it's also a time to talk to your to-be college student about sexual health. We do know that teens ages 15 to young adults age 24 do represent the highest rate of new STIs or sexually transmitted infections. So while they represent only 19% of the population, they do represent 45 to 50% of new diagnosed sexually transmitted infections. So it's just really smart to be talking about how do you prevent such infections? How do you treat such infections? How do you recognize those things?
So how do you talk consent? When you explain consent to them, is that a signed document? Is that just like, yes, I agree? How do you explain consent as a parenting expert to a teenager?
I think like we've talked about in weeks prior, consent really, we'd love it to have it as a piece of paper, but that's not so practical at the parties, right? And so it's important to talk to your kid about both when they're seeking consent from someone or being asked to give consent, of really understanding that they're not feeling pressured to be in that relationship or to be in that interaction of intimacy, to really feel that this is where they want to be, this is a decision they want to make, they recognize the consequences from these decisions, and are really knowing that they can change their mind at any time, and that saying yes to one thing doesn't mean you're saying yes to everything, and really helping teens and young adults think and talk about that, because I think again it's uncomfortable for parents to think about their kids in those situations. Mm-hmm. I get that's not what we all want to think about sometimes as parents, but it's really important to at least have these conversations so you get the wheels turning in our young adults' minds, thinking, okay, let me think through some of these situations.
And kind of on the same vein, we've got the digital footprint that you have to think about. Talk to your kids about their digital footprint, and what they're posting on social media is a piece of advice from you before they leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would dovetail that also with substance use, particularly alcohol. So we know that hazing happens approximately 55% in that first year of college, whether it's sport, Greek life, a club. And so we know that hazing can be an area of negative peer pressure. We do know that unfortunately on average since 2020 we've had 5 hazing deaths a year on average. That's 5 too many. And so recognizing that hazing can be something from humiliation to something much more life-threatening, that we want to talk to our college kids about that. We also want to dovetail that alcohol use is frequently involved in that, and 1 in 4 college kids currently report binge drinking on a monthly basis. And so alcohol use is a part of the college culture fabric, and just being realistic about how we talk about that so that they can make safe choices and be responsible in those moments, along with the fact that now most everything from hazing to partying to drinking can be recorded either in photos or in videos and reels. And that, unlike when we were in college, that now follows you. That's not only a permanent record should there be any nefarious activity, but it's also a permanent record when you're applying to a job or graduate school or parenting your own kids in the future. So just being thoughtful of both the choices for your own safety as a college student and then future reputational risks.
So just a gentle reminder to your kids, like, don't put anything on social media that your mother wouldn't approve of.
That's a good litmus test. Yeah, I think stick to that, and be mindful that other people may take your photos or upload things without your consent around that. And so trying to be more thoughtful. I just think it's such an important conversation to keep our young people talking about because we haven't yet quite seen these are the teens and young adults now aren't yet in their 30s and 40s, applying and navigating their professional careers. But I think that'll be an interesting wave to watch, and we'll probably see a lot come from that.
So I want to go back to what you talked about with hazing and alcohol. How do you suggest parents allow their teens some freedom to explore? That's part of the process of going to college, right? But also say, don't do that. Because the binge drinking especially and the hazing. So how do you tell your kid, go out and explore, but don't go too far? I just don't know where do you find that balance?
Ultimately, they're not going to seek your permission. Right now, they're no longer, especially if they're not commuting to college, but away at college, they're no longer under your roof. You won't really have a say in the matter. So at this point, it's about having smart, warm, supportive communication and connection, which is the fifth topic, with your kid, about ensuring your voice is in their head at those tough moments, and recognizing at least you're empowering them with knowledge. I have seen a significant number of cases of intoxication and impairment related to some of these choices where a young adult is saying, I didn't know this. We've never really talked about this. I didn't really realize I could get into this kind of situation. Obviously, this is kind of aftermath discussion, which I find unfortunate. No young adult should come to someone like myself afterwards and say, I didn't even really think about this situation. I want young adults at least thinking about these situations so that when they're in it and they're making decisions, that they're at least informed in the decision they're making, because most are now 18 or over and really are responsible for their own actions, and can give good thought to that. And that's a place for family values and your family and parental voice to be heard, and it really empowering parents. I think so many parents today think, well, they're influenced by friends, they're influenced by social media, the eye rolling and the hand waving, they're not listening to me. And the data, I encourage every parent to look up the statistics on the power of their voice on young adults is enormous. And making sure they're speaking up, talking freely about topics, if nothing else, not even saying you should or you shouldn't binge drink, but just saying this is what worries me about binge drinking.
So research shows that even if you don't think they're getting through to them, a little bit of it is getting through.
You are getting through to them. And we see this when we do these retrospective studies on choices around risky behavior or various decision making around really critical aspects of one's life and value system. Parental narrative is still huge in a young adult's decision-making factors. And we see that as these young adults kind of get into their next chapter of even their married life, right? You see family values weave through these generations.
So how do you, because I have noted here that you encourage that you come up with a plan for staying connected when they leave home, so that when they leave, you haven't called me in a week. So is that something you discuss beforehand? Hey, I want you to check in with me every Wednesday. Or what do you suggest?
Yeah, I think some sort of communication pattern so they know what to expect from you and you know what to expect from them. Certainly what you don't want to become is a policing or a checking in that becomes nagging or one where your college student is pushing you away. At the same point, college students don't want to be abandoned either. They want their parents to remain engaged with them. Sometimes empty nesters are also excited about their newfound freedom and independence. So just finding a natural rapport that feels natural to your interactions. And nowadays with text and Instagram and DMs and phone calls, a quick touch point is really easy to do. Keeping it warm, keeping it supportive. I would pull back from, lecturing or kind of tutoring tone and word choice, because that's probably not helpful with the miles and distance in between you. Because at the end of the day, you want them picking up the phone and calling you, particularly when they're in a challenged spot or need some advice.
Do you suggest that transition to college is a good time for the parents to give a little rope? Maybe they stop tracking them on their phone, or they give them their own credit card that they have to pay the bill for. Mom and dad aren't paying the bill. Is this an opportunity where parents can give kids a little more independence?
Absolutely, right? We need to hold our kids accountable, just as we can think back to elementary years when we gave more space on various things, or when they were teens and we let them stay home alone. We need to give that space so that they can practice accountability with the safety net of us present. I mean, how many college kids have been irresponsible with a first-time credit card and found themselves in new debt that parents needed to assist with, right? That's a mistake, and they will make mistakes with their newfound freedom around money, time management, choices, and there will be times that they're coming back for your assistance as a parent. But if we don't push them to have that accountability and make mistakes, really, how do you learn?
Bottom line, have these conversations now before they leave.
Before they leave. You know, it's never too late to start. I had a conversation this past week with a parent who just said, we're not that kind of family. We don't talk about those kind of things. And I get that, you know, particularly around a kind of a Midwest value system around communication. But ultimately, those conversations, as hard and awkward as they may be, are investments to your kids' future successes and well-being.
Okay. Dr. Madeline Gagnon, you always have such great advice. You run Pulse Parents. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook. Maddie joins us every week, and she always has the best advice, so we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We're going to go to break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Well, much of the state is in drought condition right now. That is hard news for farmers across the state, especially if you're in northern Minnesota or in some certain conditions. Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, Tom Peterson, joins me now. Tom, thanks for coming on the show again.
Thanks, Courtney. Great to visit with you this afternoon.
Okay, so talk to me. I mean, these conditions are not good, especially when you talk about like central north Minnesota. What are the impacts the drought is having on farmers right now?
Well, there's a couple of things going on right now. As we look at our state, every Thursday morning, we get the drought monitor at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I check that right away. And this last week was pretty tough, you know, as we looked at 80% of our state being in some kind of moderate drought, but almost 35% of the state being what we call the D2 or severe drought. And depending on how it goes next week, we could even have some areas get into a D3, which is an exceptional drought. And what that means is that, you know, our crops are drying up. The hay pastures drying up for farmers. We did have a big rain last week that really helped a lot, wide part of our state. I would say we used to call those $1 million rains, but I'd almost call that rain $1 billion rain. That was a crop saving rain for a lot of farmers. But on the flip side, Courtney, a lot of farmers missed that. It's hard talking to some farmers who just, talked about how disappointing that was. Last thing I'd say is we have 2 counties in southwest Minnesota that were declared a federal disaster, Nobles and Rock County. And, you couple that with the heat, we've seen this unprecedented time where we've lost hundreds of cattle to the heat and thousands of turkeys. So pretty tough stretch here, and hoping for a cooler, wetter weather soon.
How are consumers possibly going to feel the impacts of that?
I think, it always, goes down the line. We also talked about, the immediate impact would be smaller farmers or vegetable farmers. If farmers markets might not have as much produce or things that if they did not have irrigated land. But the question will be really on those cattle markets, be the earliest we see is those are pretty strong right now. But as farmers struggle with feed prices, whether it's hay or pastures, and they have to get into feed, that can sometimes pass that along eventually.
Yesterday at a family function, I got to catch up with a corn and soybean farmer who's out in western Minnesota, and he said they got 1.5 inches of rain, and it was incredible. But he said if we don't get any more, it could be disastrous. Is that kind of the feeling across the board, across the state?
Yeah, that really sums it up, and that really soaked in. Like I said, that was kind of a savior rain. And we really, it's a critical time in the development of the corn and soybeans, and those are our major crops in our state. We're pretty far along into our wheat harvest, and that's been going pretty good. That's way in northwest Minnesota, but we really could use some cooler temperatures too, and so that'll help as well. So fingers crossed we get some rains later this week.
For those of our viewers who are a little less educated on the ag community, because my son asked this question this weekend. He said, "But Mommy, why don't they just water the corn?" Can you just break that down? I mean, I know the answer, but why are we depending on natural water supplies to water our crops?
Yeah, in Minnesota, we have about 24 million acres of farmland, and less than 1 million acres of that is commercially or irrigated, or where farmers have irrigation systems. And so we do rely on Mother Nature because it's expensive, and water is a finite source. Even though we're the land of 10,000 lakes and we have great aquifers and everything, it takes a lot to water those crops. And so we do depend on Mother Nature to provide us with that, and it's hard sometimes to get the spigot to turn on and turn off at some certain points too as well.
Yeah, and those genetically modified seeds have certainly made it easier because the crop is a little more resilient. But
they really have. That's a great point. Just so we see the drought resistant seeds. When I started 30 some years ago, we've almost doubled our genetics that we can grow on farms, but that drought resistant seed is also a very good point, Courtney. That does help a lot.
Yeah, still devastating, and the farmers still need rain. So everybody just do the rain dance if you can.
Please.
You guys have Minnesota Farm Fest coming up August 4th through 6th in Morgan, Minnesota. Preview this for me. It starts tomorrow.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. It's, kind of a big deal for farmers and those involved. I encourage people to come and check it out. We get tens of thousands of people come out to check that out in Redwood Falls or near Morgan, Minnesota. And it's basically a big farm show where you can do everything from visit seed dealers to tractors to see a lot of the technology. Courtney, one of the big things I've seen the last 2 years where the crowds are is where we have drones and drone technology for planting and applying products to field. And then the big highlight too is the debates this year between congressional candidates and governor and Senate candidates. But you can really hear from experts and visit and kick the tires and do all kinds of things. But for me personally, as commissioner, it's a great chance to get to visit with farmers from all over the state and kind of see what's going on, and so you get a really good really a lot of job advice and feedback being out there, but it's invaluable.
How is this different from the state fair? Because I'm thinking about this sounds very similar to the state fair. You know, we have the state fair traditionally has a large farming component. You've got Tractor Hill, a lot of people out there selling equipment. So how is that? How is it different?
You know, the big difference between the two is for me is expositions. You know, and so. State Fair is a longtime exhibitor myself with my horses at the State Fair. We have competitions more at the fair. So we do have the Machinery Hill, as you mentioned, or we have the big Farmers Union and Farm Bureau booths where people can learn about agriculture. But we have the great cattle shows and crop seed art and all the things where farmers can really show off at the State Fair, where the farm show is more of a chance to see some of the equipment, test some of the new technology, visit with folks that are involved in it. You can do some of that at the state fair too, but this is like, you know, more focused on that. There's also good food. Not, I'd say the state fair has way better food, but there's some great options there too as well, which is always important.
All right, wonderful. And then I also wanted to touch on just the impacts of the war right now on the ag community in Minnesota. You know, a lot of people might not realize, but war in Iran does touch Minnesota and impacts our farmers. How is that having an impact?
Well, it's a couple of two different ways that may not be surprising. As first is fuel. Diesel is incredibly important to our farmers, especially right now as we're getting closer and closer to harvest season. We're actually in our harvest season for our wheat and small grains, you know, but we're maybe a month away from starting some of our corn and soybeans. And that's hard when your price is up 40% year on year and you're facing tariffs and other issues. But also fertilizer prices. A lot of farmers purchase their fertilizer in the fall for the next year and try to get ready. And those are concerns, those costs for bottom lines for farmers that maybe, you know, already be stretched thin to have those added costs. And so that is something that we're definitely hearing from our farmers. And we are worrying about tight supplies on fertilizer as we go, but you know, we think we'll have enough fertilizer and everything. It's just the costs that farmers are going to have to pay, which concerns me.
Yeah, I hate to see these farmers taking a hit. Tom Peterson, Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, thanks so much for making the time today.
Thanks, Courtney. Appreciate the opportunity.
And again, Minnesota Farm Fest takes place tomorrow through Thursday in Redwood County, Morgan, Minnesota to be exact. So if you're in the area, check it out. All right, we're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon. We hope you had a great weekend. I'm Courtney Godfrey. Welcome to All Day Live. Vance Belcher is expected in Hennepin County Court today, less than 2 weeks after being sentenced to a double life sentence plus 40 years in federal prison for last year's deadly lawmaker shootings. He now faces 8 state charges, including first-degree murder, which could bring life without parole if convicted. Obviously, this all comes on top of those federal charges, as it is unlikely that he will ever see the light of day outside of prison. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty is asking Texas Governor Greg Abbott to extradite an ICE agent charged with shooting a man in North Minneapolis this past winter. In a letter sent last week, Moriarty urges Abbott to sign the paperwork, claiming all legal requirements have been met so 52-year-old Christian Castro can return to Minnesota to face charges tied to the January shooting. And Mike Lindell was set to appear before an administrative law judge today after a 4th of July parade handout may have violated state election law. A complaint claims the Republican candidate for governor handed out MyPillow products labeled Mike Lindell for governor during Delano's 4th of July parade, which could violate the state's ban on giving items of value to influence voters. Today's hearing will determine whether there's probable cause for the case to move forward. And northern Minnesota's wildfire outlook continues to improve. Fire crews say the major July wildfires are now nearly 60% contained, and more boundary water entry points near Ely will be opening up for day use and for overnight camping starting this week. Meantime, firefighters are also responding to a new small wildfire that sparked over the weekend, but it remains under control at this point. A nationwide cyclospora outbreak has now turned deadly. Health officials in Michigan are reporting 2 deaths linked to the foodborne parasite. Both people had underlying health conditions, that's important to note, but investigators are still working to identify the full source, with some illnesses tied to contaminated lettuce served at restaurants, including Taco Bell locations. And we're also hearing that actually there's a shift to buying leafy greens at markets. So it's National Farmers Market Week, Grace.
Yeah, it sure is.
I had not heard about this.
Yeah, it sure is National Farmers Market Week. And tomorrow we're working on trying to get someone to come on the show just to talk about the farmers markets around the Twin Cities that maybe we don't know of, and why it's important to support your local farmers.
But more people buying leafy greens at the farmers market, maybe thinking that they won't have cyclospora?
Listen, I've done this. I refused to buy my lettuce in stores, and I've been going to the farmers market, the Minneapolis farmers market and the Linden Hills farmers market, and that's where we've been getting our lettuce because I'm afraid. Actually, we've been getting all our produce from there. So we go to the farmers market.
Because you're afraid.
Yes, because I'm afraid. I live in fear. But you know what? It's okay. It's a win-win.
You live in fear of explosive diarrhea. Okay.
Yeah, I live in fear of explosive diarrhea. I will put that on the record. And yeah, but it's a win-win because you get to support your local farmers. It's great.
Yeah, so more people, I mean, it does make sense because these cyclospora outbreaks, when they do happen, they have always been linked to massive commercial farms. Yeah. And it's usually, as we've talked to cyclospora experts about, it's usually linked to the water supply. So those big, huge irrigation systems.
Yes.
So if you're buying from your local farmer, you're probably onto something that those leafy greens are probably safe.
That's my logic.
Or just grow it in your backyard, Grace.
I live in an apartment, so it'd be on my little balcony. I don't think it would go well. Every plant I've ever had in my entire life has died. So
well, that's good. Just support,
maybe one day.
Support the local farmers and give up on your own gardening dreams.
Exactly. We do have the clip with
City Council Member Mike Rainville.
City Council Member Mike Rainville ready to go if you want to throw to that.
Yeah, great. So earlier today we had a conversation with City Council Member Mike Rainville as he is warning of a possible 13% increase in property taxes in Minneapolis. Take a listen to that conversation. Made. Ward 3 City Council Member Mike Rainville joins us now. Mike, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Courtney.
Okay, so you're warning of a 13% property tax increase. 13%.
Mm-hmm. And that would be on top of the 8% increase last year.
Wow. Okay, and why do you say that property taxes could go up 13%?
Well, it's a combination of many things, but leading it is the devaluation of the office towers in downtown Minneapolis. Basically, every time one gets sold, they get sold at a steep discount, and so we lose tax dollars. A current example is the old Amorprise building on 2nd Avenue and 7th Street. It was valued at $200 million in 2016. So you would have hoped it appreciated a little bit, but it sold for $6 million, a 97% discount off that price. Thus, their property taxes have dropped 97%.
So a loss of commercial business has really hurt the city's bottom line. What about workers not returning to downtown? I mean, we know that a lot of corporations have, started to bring people back downtown, but some left during the pandemic and never came back.
Yes, you're right about that as well. The value of the buildings is being driven down because the occupancy is being driven down. So companies that went to the work from home have really hurt downtown Minneapolis. But the good news is companies like Wells Fargo, US Bank, Target, they're all bringing people back. And to their credit, they say that job performance reviews will be contingent on time in the office. And if you think about it, Courtney, a junior level, entry level person needs to learn from those more seasoned veterans that are down the hallway from them. You can't learn from another person over the internet or on a phone call. You have to have that face-to-face conversation. That's what's been missing in downtown, and that's what's coming back.
It is coming back, but not enough. I mean, the county assessor's office would show that you've lost a lot over the last 6 years. So how do you make up for that? I know that City Hall is working hard at trying to make up for those losses.
Yeah, so let's put a number on that first, Courtney. From 2022, which is the peak of the valuations in downtown and thus the property tax revenue, to 26 in just 4 years, we've lost $54 million in revenue. And that's on a general fund. We try to get a little over 500 million out of our property tax to run the city because we have expenses. It's expensive to run the city of Minneapolis, but that's an over 10% shortage right there, and it's going down. So that's why we as a city need to do what every company has been doing, every individual, every household, which is tighten the belt. We have to look at all of our expenses, every one of them, no sacred cows, and decide what are the core missions of this city.
Yeah, I mean, the offices that are leaving downtown are facing some of the same challenges that City Hall is. Higher costs associated with city employees, plus inflation. How are you guys tackling that?
Well, you're right. You've done your homework. Our healthcare, we have healthcare expense for 4,000 employees. That's all gone up. We've been given raises because inflation's been terrible. That's gone up. Equipment purchases have gone up. And at the same time, our revenues are declining. It is so unfair to take that burden that's missing right now and place them on low income and fixed income residents, as well as these small commercial buildings out in the neighborhoods, these business districts. If you own a little store out there, or, a hardware store or a restaurant, you feel that tax burden as well. And that drives up the cost of living for everybody.
What about Operation Metro Surge? I heard that some of this budget shortfall is due to all the overtime during Operation Metro Surge.
Yes, during Operation Metro Surge, we didn't know what was going to happen in the city, especially with the horrible deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. We were fearful of another uprising like we had in 2020, the burning down of the buildings on Lake Street and other parts of Minneapolis, West Broadway. That was the largest amount of property damage ever done to a city during a riot, with the exception of Los Angeles and the Watts riots way back when. So we made a decision to protect people and property from anything, and that there was an expense to that. When the federal government came in here, they were raising Cain with everybody, and we had to do something. We had to make a decision. We did not want Lake Street, Nicollet, our other business districts burned down again, looted, like in 2020. And that's why those costs have gone up.
Well, I know your adversaries on the city council would say, well, we won't need to raise taxes if we didn't, have so much police overtime. What do you say to that?
Well, police overtime, what is that? A big part of that is the 911 responders. So those are the officers in the squad cars. On any given day in Minneapolis, half of those police driving to keep us safe and are on overtime because we're so short. I wish my fellow council members would truly understand and admit, I think they understand, but I wish they would admit that these overtime costs are totally driven by the shortage of police. If you remember, we had a little over 900 police back in May of 2020. After the terrible murder of George Floyd, there was a big exodus of police officers. We're looking at a little over 600 now. So we're easily 33% short of it. And in fact, Chief Arredondo back in 2018 did a study for the council about what the police amount should be, the force, how many employees. He came back with 1,200. So if you in 2024, well, this is 2026. 2 years later, compare that 1,200 against the 600. That means we're half under.
So when we talk about 13%, the potential that property taxes go up 13%, that's a lot. The mayor's office has not confirmed this number. They say they're still, trying to work things out. What needs to happen for the mayor's office to work things out so that we don't see a 13% increase in property taxes? Because that's going to hit a lot of pocketbooks hard.
Sure. So in my private conversations with the mayor, his staff, other council members, I have the view that just as every household, every person, every business, whether you're downtown in the neighborhood, you have to make tough decisions and understand what your core mission is. They've all had to tighten their belt. They've had to make sacrifices. It's our time to do that now as a city, because we cannot keep putting that tax burden on our residents, especially our low income and fixed income residents. I hear all the time when I'm out in the community, people are literally being forced to move. And then you throw on things like home insurance, which every renter pays. They pay it through the rent. Utilities, electricity. It's things are just going up. Food. We've all been in a grocery store. We're in a tough time here in America and in Minneapolis.
Since I have you here, I also want to ask you about a few other things happening in your district. There's a proposed data center that might be going in the old Star Tribune printing plant. I know that you talked to one of our reporters earlier today about this. It is your district. There's a lot of concern, environmental concern, noise concern about this data plant going in the North Loop. What can you tell us?
Well, I know very little because the sale is pending. It's proposed, but the final documents haven't been signed. I have a call into the potential buyer to just find out, more details, more questions. But the whole subject of data centers, we have an excellent staff here in the city of Minneapolis, and our planning staff and zoning staff are now going over a new ordinance with a fine-tooth comb. How do we have an ordinance based on facts, not fears? Because data centers are here to stay. In fact, we really should be calling them computer centers, because that's all they are, is the new generation of technology for computing centers. Whether you're a bank, a railroad, airline, a doctor, you all use those. And we have to craft an ordinance that protects our water. We do have surplus water right now in downtown supply. And my understanding is these data centers are on a closed water loop, so that pollution is not going anywhere. And we have electrical capacity as well. That printing plant has a lot of electricity going in there to drive the printing presses. And all over the country, these newspaper plants that are no longer there. They're producing buggy whips in the age of automobiles. They're a relic of the past. They're being reused as data centers, housing, retail, open space. That plant is right by the river. What can be done there? That's my goal, my quest to find out how well that can be developed.
Well, we know that there still is a zoning process that they have to go through. They're going to have to pass all kinds of regulations, those things. But considering the current budget situation the city of Minneapolis is in, you know you're going to face pushback on this data center. Is the city in a position to turn down business with a $30 million budget shortfall, even if it is something as controversial as a data center?
Right. So, common sense says get the facts and make a decision based on facts, not fears. And I'll go to a building that's converted lately, ironically by the same company that has the purchase agreement. It hasn't bought it yet, haven't signed off yet. But they did the Sleep Number building, which was an old American Express building. It was basically emptied out by American Express. The assessor valued it at $30 million, was purchased for $20 million. And 2 years later, with the addition of 2 of the 8 floors having a computer center on it, it sold for $235 million. It increased in value by over $200 million. That is something that we have to consider. It does not draw excess water. It draws as much water as a mid-sized apartment building. The electricity doesn't hurt anybody's electric bills. And because we're a northern climate, they can use air cooling from October through March, which cuts down on water usage even more.
Okay. Mike Rainville, we so appreciate you making the time today.
Always. Give me a call anytime, Cord.
All right, that was our discussion with City Council member Michael Rainville earlier. Now we invite in Chief Meteorologist Ian Leonard to talk all things weather.
Hold for applause. There we go. Perfect.
Was the applause for me or was the applause for you?
Hello.
Still
you get plenty. Look,
unanswered.
you get plenty of applause in your life. You know that. You walk into you sashay into a room, you saunter into a room, you glide into a room, and there it is. There's applause, and people, oh my God, that's so Courtney Conley. Oh my God. When I walk into a room, people are like, oh, really? Is that your hair? Oh.
Well, you have to sit next to Randy Meyer in that toupee.
Yeah, every time I walk around with him, and now people will walk up and they will literally. And we think it's funny, and we do it because we have fun with each other.
His hair is real.
It's real. But people will come up, and if I'm standing there and they're standing there, they'll look at me and him and me and him, and then they say to me, "You're right, it really is gorgeous."
It is nice hair.
It's phenomenal.
It is nice hair.
Do you watch Shrinking?
No. Should I be?
Oh, it is. So the 2 best written shows on television right now, my humble opinion, Shrinking and Rooster.
Never
Rooster
heard of
is
either one
Steve
of them.
Carell's new show, and it is brilliant. And Shrinking is,
Some shows starring Randy Meyer.
Harrison Ford. I forget the guy's name, Jason, whatever it is. It's so well written and so good. It's just.
Jason Segel. Where's the Randy Meyer tie?
There's a guy in Shrinking who has hair as good as his. And on the last episode I watched, we're getting in the weeds here, but somebody said, "How is your hair so great?" And he goes, "Olive oil." If I put olive oil in my hair to look like I combed it with bacon, it's not going to work. So
I think Randy uses mane and tail, but that's just my guess. You never heard of mane and tail?
No. Is that horse stuff? Oh my God. All right, and hey, would you guys, can you see the water cooler tomorrow? Did you know that Randy Meyer uses horse stuff on his head? No way, where'd you learn that? Well, I was watching that Courtney Godfrey. Oh boy, when she saunters into a room, it's something else. It's just, I don't know, I don't get it. You want to talk some weather stuff?
I'd love to.
Okay.
So we got, rain was much needed, and we got some over the weekend.
Some, yeah. It's a bit of an understatement. Depends where you were, but when you think about it, we had record amounts of rain. And Wednesday and Thursday, we were talking about the Minnesota River Valley. Parts of the Minnesota River Valley have between 5 and 7 inches in less than 24 hours. When you need rain, that is invariably way too much, way too fast. A lot of that becomes runoff, enters the Minnesota River Valley, in turn enters the Mississippi. That's good news for folks downstream. A lot of that was runoff. But, I think for most people, it's the drought. From Mille Lacs all the way into southern Ontario, Canada, up into the Arrowhead, St. Louis and Lake County. Oh, wait a minute, what's there? Wildfires, that's the BWCA. There have been some on and off scattered showers. We're between 30 and 50% containment on all of those fires, but just moving forward in time, and we were talking about this off air, those fires have all been triggered by lightning strikes. So people will say, oh, good, we're getting thunderstorms, and that brings rain. It's two sides to that coin. Yeah, there is some rain. On the other side, it's lightning. We'll talk lightning strikes. Again, there was another lightning strike fire developed over the weekend, Friday into Saturday. So we have a chance tonight. There's a slight risk of severe weather off to the northwest, and that should transfer off into the Arrowhead and run along the Canadian border overnight tonight between, say, 10 and 10 p.m. tonight and 4 a.m. I'm hopeful that it's just rain and an awful lot of rain instead of any lightning. All it takes is one, though.
I was at a family gathering yesterday and was talking to a corn and soybean farmer who's out in Alexandria.
A lot of farmers in your family.
I know one.
Okay.
He said they got an inch and a half, and he said it was great. He said really needed it, but if we don't get more, I'm in dire.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of viewers will look at that and say, well, they had record rain down there. The farmers should stop complaining, or your farming friend, an inch and a half of rain. That would be like if you looked at your lawn and it was going. The green has drained out of it, but it's not crispy. It's not dead. It's actually going dormant. And then you get an inch and a half of rain and you're in bed going, my lawn's going to be amazing in the next few weeks. And it just doesn't. So soil moisture, we classify drought using an index called the Palmer Index, which is a bunch of things. It's soil moisture, how much soil moisture there is there some at different levels of the soil, but also, it's so weird, getting in the weeds. I always get in here and get in the weeds. There's a wilting index. So once a plant begins to wilt, the next phase is the plant dies. Well, when you get to a certain point in the drought season, once the plant is past the wilting stage, you can have feet of rain. You could submerge the fields for weeks. That plant is never coming back. Remember when you were a college student and you had one plant? And you put it on that window and this plant is going to be so great. It's going to just make the room come alive. And after 3 weeks, it's like half dead. So you pour more water on it. Another week goes by, it's more than half dead. You pour more water on it, and then you're like, throw it out. Plants are like people. They need constant nutrients. And just these blasts of rain that we get, it's not enough. It's nowhere near enough.
Well, and it really depends on where you are, the conditions, He said, my friends who have more sandy soil, they're in a worse position. My friends who have hilly terrain.
There's clay, there's sand. I mean, there's all these sorts of things. Do they have weeping tile in the field, which creates drainage, which helps the water get down and then flush it out? I mean, there's a lot of things. We always talk about our farming friends.
Yeah.
I think most of us go to the grocery store and they're like, oh, there's the bread and there's the... And I don't think most people, I don't want to paint with a solid brush here, but a lot of people don't think about, where's the bread coming from? Where's the milk coming from? Where's the butter coming from? Is it hard because of the drought? And yeah, it is. And the drought goes right down to hay. Think about feeding your livestock. Feed corn, hay, and they're all graded. And so if you're a farmer and you're using, you do a cut of hay, and then we get a heavy rain, the grade automatically it's going down. The hay isn't as good once it gets wet in the field, even if we dry. All these things come together. And I know we live in a really big metropolitan center, but I think a lot of times we forget about our farming friends.
Well, and you won't forget when you see the price of things, and it takes some time sometimes to catch up in the grocery store. But we were just talking to the commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture about this, so they're concerned for sure. But it is nice we have turned the temperature down a bit.
Is it nice, isn't it?
This
is the temperature that I was mentioning last week that is Ian approved.
Yeah.
I love the mid-80s. I don't want it to be cool. For me, it's the oppressive humidity. And I think that's for most people. And then again, take it one step further, not just the forecast, not just the drought, but the poor people who were working outside in that heat and humidity. They're professional, they kind of know how to do it, but there's only so much you can do. I had a cousin visiting me this past weekend. He's from Manchester, England, where my family's from, but he lives in Kuala Lumpur. And I'm like, how about this humidity? And he goes, what? He goes, we have 2 seasons, really humid and wet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But without the humidity, it's great. And, we'll get a little reset here into the day tomorrow. I think temperatures dance around 80 degrees, which will be like, oh, get me outside. But as we head toward the weekend, temperatures are back up in the mid to upper 80s. I think at this point, the weekend until Sunday looks lovely, mid 80s. Not a lot of humidity, and then another chance of rain come Sunday afternoon, Sunday night.
Man.
I mean, mid 80s in August, I love it. You know what I hate?
When your friends don't invite you out on the boat, I feel like.
But go ahead, ask me.
What do you hate?
Well, there's so many things, Courtney. I will tell you this. I hate when you go into a store or a restaurant and the air conditioning is so high that you immediately I need to put on a sweater. Like, have you ever done that? You sit in a restaurant, and you're trying to eat, and you're like, I don't think it needs to be 66 degrees inside.
Well, I lived for a long time in Arizona, and that is everywhere in Arizona. It's 110 degrees outside, and you walk inside of any building, any commercial building, it's 60 degrees, you need a
Right, and
sweater.
you see women putting on cardigans. I'm like, what is going on here? I think we go a little, if you're asking me.
Yeah, Ian
I
would
think
like
we're
everyone
going a little
to turn.
overboard on the air conditioning. I don't know that it has to be 66 or 67 in your house. There's some people who like it that way, and I get it. There are also people who like it hot and humid. I get that too, but public places where it's like there's ice hanging from the roof, and you're like, what is going on? Are we in a taxidermy office? I don't understand.
Oh my, okay. This is
where you tell me how great it is to have me stop by.
It is.
I can't hear you. No, I'll wait.
Ian Leonard, everybody. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We love having you.
Hold for applause. There we go. Thank you.
We're going to take it to break. We'll be right back with another one of our favorites, sports director Jim Rich. Stay right there.
Who?
Welcome back. Well, the MLB trade deadline is fast approaching. I think we've only got about 45 minutes until it closes. This is the final day that teams can make trades to improve their rosters before the postseason push. Sports director Jim Rich joins me now. Jim, you're in Eagan at TCO Performance Center, but let's talk baseball first. Any big moves from the Twins ahead of this deadline expiring in just about 45 minutes?
Not yet. It's been quiet to this point. They made a couple of moves over the weekend to grab some relievers. And then, of course, they had a trade for Trevor Larnach that he was going to go to Houston for one of their relievers. And instead, Houston's owners said, no, we're not giving that up for Trevor Larnach. So the deal was busted. And the bad part about it, Courtney, was word got out. And so Trevor Larnach now knows that he was traded. The Twins are trying to trade him. And so not the greatest feeling, I suppose, if you're a player, knowing that the team you're on doesn't really want you. But he got over it. Yesterday, he had a 2-run homer. And so hopefully he had a conversation with Derek Shelton and GM Jeremy Zoll, and they patched things up. Or they could still try to trade him again in another 40 minutes. So we will see if the Twins do anything. They're trying to get one of the higher end relievers to shore up the back end of the bullpen, trying to get a 8th or 9th inning guy. So if that's available to them for the right price, they'll pull the trigger. Owner Tom Pohlad has said he will spend the money to add salary to the club. He's already done that. And so we will see here if they can find for a piece they want in the next 40 minutes or so.
I saw a sports writer say the bullpen is priority number 1, number 2, and number 3 for the Twins right now. But it sounds like that reliever position is really what they need.
Yeah, the bullpen, reliever, those are the same guys as what we're talking about. Starting pitching is okay. You also have to pay more for a starter. So they're looking at guys that can come in there and solidify this bullpen. They've got some good young arms, no doubt, but they want a guy to get some veteran guys that have experienced, hopefully, what the playoffs are like. So when the Twins hopefully get to the playoffs, they can count on those veterans to get some big outs for them in the postseason. So that's what they're looking for right now, trying to get this to a point where they feel that they have enough arms to go to battle with anybody they run into should they make the playoffs. All
right, let's talk about Vikings because you're there at TCO Performance Center. It looks like they are letting the fans in. 2:30 practice. Is practice open to the public every day now?
Most days. Just look at the Vikings schedule. It depends on what they're doing. But today it was open. Today was the first pad of practice. And so the guys all said football is finally here. You can finally hit somebody. Where I'm standing this is the line for autographs. So today it's the tight ends that are going to come over here, sign for the kids. So maybe we'll get to witness some of that for you. Practice is just wrapping up over there. They haven't heard the official horn to end practice, so they're still working on some things. But again, it was good. Put the pads on. It looks more like football, not a bunch of guys in shorts pushing each other around. They can now tackle each other, which is always entertaining for myself, as long as nobody's tackling me.
All right, we did get to hear from some players and some coaches today at training camp. What were some highlights for you during those media availabilities?
Just the guys are excited to finally put the pads on. This is a big step because they haven't had the pads on since their last game of last year. So when they were beaten and didn't make the playoffs, that was it. And so today is the first day where they get to put the gear on and they finally get to feel, that football is actually back. No more organized team activities, no more mini camps. There'll be other days where they don't have full pads on, but this is where you find out if you truly are in football shape. So that's what the talk was. It was settling some scores with some teammates, all in jest, of course. But, people are squawking a little bit, telling them, oh, how good we are because you can't tackle me. Now the defense says, we'll see how good you are. And Josh Metellus was pretty excited to go out there and just let people know that this defense indeed has a bite. And they weren't able to use that bite for the first portion. Now they can. As far as the quarterback competition today, both J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray split times with the ones. Both were behind the second team offensive line. J.J. started the first series. Things went well. There was a good play that really got a lot of applause from the fans that were watching. We're not allowed to shoot it or we would show it to you, but Kyler Murray showed the athletic ability that he truly has. He was able to avoid the rush, buy some time, and then hit Justin Jefferson down the sideline. Perfectly thrown ball as J.J. dove for the sideline. That really got everybody fired up. And that's what Pete Bursich, who is the audio analyst for the Vikings radio network, he joined us last night on Sports Now, and he said that's what he's taken away from the early portions of seeing Kyler Murray in person, just how athletic this guy really is. He's got some skill. He's got some tools, but can he comprehend this offense and play it on a consistent basis? That's what has to be learned here now.
Those are all fun moments for the crowd to see when they're down there taking in training camps. That's great. And good to hear that they're still just splitting reps and no news to be reported about the quarterbacks. But we'll keep asking.
We don't have a winner. We do not have a winner. No one's making projections yet. We're still just going at it. The primaries are taking place right now. And right now it's a 50-50 fan vote. We could ask some fans if you want to see what they think. If you'd like to ask them if they have a preference, who they want to see as their quarterback, or
sure,
should we keep him out of it?
No, go ahead, Jim.
Do we risk it?
Risk
this
it.
Is where it could get dicey,
Risk it. We're streaming,
you
Jim.
do have that. You do have it. Well, just as long as you're streaming and not screaming at me, that's good. All right, we're going to go over here.
I have heard a lot.
How are you, sir?
Oh, there you go.
This is live on Fox 9 all day. That's very good. That was my first thing I was going to say. Courtney Godfrey, she's in that little box right there. Great journalist, probably one of the best ones we have at Fox 9. Can you give us your assessment of the quarterbacks? That's what everybody wants to know. So you were just out there watching it. What'd you see?
I've seen from either one of them, but
yeah, he had that one good pass to Justin Jefferson where he showed that athletic ability. Okay, by the way, what's your name? Where are you from? Oh, all right. And you're a Viking season ticket holder? Would love to be, though, I bet, someday, right? We hit the lotto, then we could buy season tickets. Or we'd buy a suite, right? Oh, there you go. Well, though, I've been on the field. It's not that good because everybody's in your way. Those guys are big, and you have to look around them. Okay, well, that's true. Overall, are you fine with this competition, or would you have rather wished that Sam Darnold was still here and we wouldn't have to worry about any of this?
It's probably the right one at the time for Sam, but
Jim, repeat the answer because we can't hear him too good.
Oh. Got it. Well, let's see. I don't know how I could do that so you can hear him, Courtney. I'm very sorry about that.
Tell me what he
says.
Summarize it for me.
Summarize it? Well, then I would have had to been listening. He was wish we weren't in this situation, but he's hoping that someone wins this competition and that we're not just hanging out and going with whatever. Correct, Derek?
Who did he like better today on the field, Kyler or JJ?
He was neither impressed with either one, really. Wasn't a good day.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Yikes.
50-50.
Yikes.
It's early, he says, though. It's early. Don't panic yet.
Okay. I have some season tickets for him to buy if he needs some.
Oh, Courtney has season tickets if you'd like to buy some. All right. He says, I'm going to take his number. We'll be calling you.
right.
Should I try another, or was that enough of that?
I think we're good. We
Look at
can't.
all these kids back here.
Look at all those kids.
Well, how does it work with
I think it's because you
earbuds?
are using the earbuds, and so they're picking up the sound from your mouth, and they're not getting the guy next to you. I liked the concept, though. Can we try it again
It
tomorrow?
was a good idea. Yeah, we could do that again.
All right.
I'm sorry. I thought I was making good. Oh, security's here. Let's see.
What is happening?
No, he'll protect me. This guy is my guy. We'll see. Except I don't know which way to turn to get you in there.
There you go. He doesn't want to be in your shot. He's like, leave me alone. Wow. Jim Rich having a good time down there at TCO Performance Center. Jim, maybe tomorrow we'll figure out how to make your earbuds work so we can hear the people in the crowd. I was very intrigued.
I'll figure that out. That could be a good concept for this. And here come the players, by the way. They're coming to get their autograph. And so they're going to put me over on this side. All right, they're kicking me out, Courtney.
The tight ends are making their way. Okay.
Exactly.
You don't get kicked out, Jim. You're a legend in the sports world around here.
Oh, no, I've been asked to move many a times.
A relic?
Move along, Jim.
Relic or a legend? I don't know.
Kind of like that woolly mammoth they found in that river in Europe. They kind of just unearth me and then tell me to move. Wasn't it a woolly mammoth? Right? Yeah.
Jim Rich, sports director here at Fox 9. Thanks so much for joining us.
The woolly mammoth, the sports department. I'm here.
All right. Grace just messaged me asking if Jim was under the influence. I'll find out later if Jim was drinking on the job. No, just kidding. Jim was definitely not. He's the best. Just having fun with us here. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. Well, all this week, up until the primaries next Tuesday, we will be talking to candidates who are running for office. Today, Rob Olson on earlier All Day chatted with Congresswoman Angie Craig, who is running for the open U.S. Senate seat. Take a listen to that conversation.
So joining us today, Representative Angie Craig, seeking the Democratic nomination in the race for U.S. Senate, going up against Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, both seeking the seat currently held by Senator Tina Smith. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be here.
You have held this seat since 2018, which you have repeatedly described as a purple district, the 2nd Congressional District, now going for the U.S. Senate. Opponents, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and those who are backing her accuse you of being too moderate and not progressive enough. What is your response to that?
Well, I took a seat that had been in Republican hands for 3/4 of a century, and I made it a safe blue seat over my 4 terms in Congress. In the House, I've listened to the people that I represent, and as it turns out, it's a third Republican, a third Democrat, and a third who don't like Democrats or Republicans. As a U.S. Senator, I will do the same thing. I will listen to the people that I represent, and that includes folks in the cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the mayor of Minneapolis, who was out kicking off door knocks with me yesterday. But I also intend to go everywhere across this great state and represent everyone. And so, what I can say is that I don't think these labels we put on ourselves anymore matter very much. It's about who you're working for. And for me, that's working on behalf of the working people of Minnesota. That's allowed me to pass 13 bills in just 8 years as a member of Congress. And that's exactly what I'll attempt to do as the next U.S. Senator.
Okay. We have seen, your fundraising has been pretty prodigious here, but then there's been an endorsement battle on both sides. The most recent poll I saw show you two running fairly neck and neck. And we've seen a lot of outside advertisements, quite a bit for, obviously a primary is people from the same party, but seems like we've been inundated with advertisements and outside spending in this race. Why do you think your race has gotten such attention?
Well, as a member of Congress, I have worked so hard and will continue to work to end Citizens United and take the outside super PAC spending out of every race, both general elections, where Republicans have spent about $50 million over 8 years trying to take me out, and in our primary system. I think that we have some systemic failures, and the Supreme Court Citizens United ruling is one of them. Look, I think there are a number of groups outside, obviously, I can't interact with them, who believe that I am the strongest Democrat to win in November against Michelle Tafoya. And as a first priority for Minnesota, we have to hold this U.S. Senate seat. We cannot stop Donald Trump and Republicans' worst impulses, the corruption in Washington, unless we win elections. So I don't know. I have the same level of information as the Lieutenant Governor about who's spending in my race, but I believe that they think that I'm the best Democrat to hold this seat in November.
Okay, let's talk about some of the major issues here and where you stand versus your opponent in this. And in the case of fraud with social service programs, you have accused the Lieutenant Governor of not taking enough accountability in her role as Lieutenant Governor. You've been accused then in return of just repeating GOP talking points when it comes to the response to investigating fraud.
Yeah, the Lieutenant Governor, who was in many of the meetings with the governor over the years, has shifted all of the blame for the fraud issues in Minnesota to the governor. And that does disturb me. It says that she cannot take any accountability for what clearly happened on her watch. And look, I'm not repeating Republican talking points. What I'm doing is previewing for Democrats just even a little bit what Republicans are going to do to the Lieutenant Governor if she is our U.S. Senate candidate in November. Many Republicans have said out loud that they very much prefer to run against the Lieutenant Governor instead of me, because they believe she has unique vulnerability as it relates to the fraud issues in Minnesota. So, the Lieutenant Governor can try to run from the accountability, but she can't hide from it. And I think it is a responsible action on my part to preview for Democratic primary voters just what's going to happen in November if she is our candidate.
Let's talk about immigration. We've seen you out at the Whipple Federal Building doing some visits out there. We know that you have been very kind of involved in this issue here. But you have been criticized for voting for the Laken-Riley Act, have since said that you regret that vote. Tell me why you voted in favor of this to begin with and why you have a differing view now.
Well, I, along with a number of Democrats like Senators John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock and Senator Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego, look, I mean, 3 days into the Trump administration, the detention of individuals, just detention of individuals who committed crimes, you know, certainly coming off the 2024 election, I took the vote. But as I stood in front of the Whipple Center, as I saw what Trump and Kristi Noem's ICE at the time did under Operation Metro Surge, of course, I regret giving the Trump administration even an inch when it comes to immigration enforcement. And, you know, I'm a big enough person to say when I got it wrong, I've done that. I wish the lieutenant governor would take some accountability on the fraud issues. But I believe that we can have both, you know, a safe and secure border, as well as we are and can be and will continue to be a nation of immigrants. In fact, not only from a humanity perspective, but you know, the economy of the United States and Minnesota depends on it. I head up the Ag Committee for House Democrats right now, and 40% of our farm workers in America are undocumented immigrants. And so we are incredibly reliant, and my view is that if someone has been here and paid their taxes and obeyed the law, that we ought to put them on a path to legal status in this country. And a long time ago, we should have worked to make sure that dreamers, those DACA recipients in this country, have a path to legal citizenship.
All right. A couple of questions from viewers that we want to get to, and one kind of goes back to our initial conversation about you know, you being from a kind of a purple district and being painted maybe as too moderate by some from progressives. So this question from a viewer, kind of to that point, you built your reputation on working across the aisle when possible. In today's political climate, where do you draw the line between bipartisan compromise and compromising on core principles?
Well, I don't think we can ever compromise on our core principles. And even as a member of Congress from the 2nd, I don't believe that I have. I believe that you have to know when to make a fist and fight, metaphorically speaking, the administration. And I also believe that you need to know when to extend your hand and work across the aisle. I've found some common ground on mental health and addiction issues over the past 8 years with some of my Republican colleagues. I've found some common ground on farm ag issues with some of my Republican colleagues in the Congress. And, you know, but I don't think we can ever betray our values and our principles. And as your next U.S. Senator, I never will.
Okay. And then one other question here from a viewer on the topic of health care, obviously becoming long been a major topic, will continue to be. So this question regarding Medicare, what is your view on Medicare for all or single payer health care? I believe your opponent supports this. This from Todd in Minneapolis.
Well, the Lieutenant Governor and I both support universal health care, and that is allowing folks to have the access to the care that they need. But it also has to be affordable. I grew up in a family that didn't always have access to health insurance myself. My mom was a single mom. We lived in several trailer homes growing up. We just disagree on the details of how to get there. I believe that the next big step forward is a Medicare for all who want it, a public option in our country. I don't like a fee-for-service payment system. That's what we have in this country right now. It rewards disease. The more treatment a patient gets, the more the doctor gets paid, the more the hospital gets paid. And honestly, I think that the system itself needs reforming to and toward an outcomes-based or value-based system where we actually reward doctors, keeping people healthy. And so I'm going to continue to fight for universal health care every step of the way.
All right. And then lastly, we're down to our last 30 seconds here. The final thing, your final pitch succinctly. Finish this sentence. I want to be your next U.S. Senator from Minnesota because.
Because I'm an experienced fighter who can also take on the Trump administration when I need to head on, as well as get things done for the people of Minnesota.
Congresswoman Angie Craig, thank you for taking time today ahead of next week's primary.
Thank you.
All right, like I mentioned earlier today, we will be airing interviews with each candidate ahead of Tuesday's primary. So keep watching all day. Those usually happen around the 12 o'clock hour. Who do we have on tomorrow? Do you guys know?
We have Kendall Qualls on tomorrow. And visit fox9.com/allday. You can submit questions that you want Rob to potentially ask the candidates throughout the week there. And yeah, we'll pick out some of the questions to ask the candidates. And we'll be re-airing the interview with Kendall Qualls tomorrow around 4:30. But you can catch the interview live at 12:30 tomorrow on Fox 9 and fox9.com.
Wonderful. Thanks, Grace, for filling that in. And like she said, you can submit a question for Kendall if you want to ask him something. He is one of the Republican candidates. So, yeah, if you have a question for him, go to fox9.com/allday, and you can submit it there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. I'm Courtney Godfrey. This is the part of the show where we like to take a look at videos that are trending online right now in a segment we like to call, Wait, What's Happening? This next one, what really is happening? Because a fishing guide out of Alaska posted this video, and it has been going crazy on the internet because he gets extremely close to a grizzly bear. He's leading a guided tour when a mother grizzly bear appears in the river, just chowing down on a snack while he's right there, feet away from her in the boat. Take a watch at this. Well, that is Carter Brown. He's a fishing guide in Soldotna, Alaska. And he said that this mother grizzly bear approached the boat while he was operating a fishing charter. So he decided to take a selfie video as she foraged around. She finds a piece of salmon, as you can see there, and eats it right next to his head.
I love this so much. This might be one of my favorite trending videos. You have the bear, who's so cute. So cute, in
There's
my
actually
opinion.
two bears.
Two
Do you see,
oh,
do
the
you
one
see
in
the
the
other
back.
bears? Yeah,
Yep.
the other bear is there, yep.
You've got two adorable bears, and then you've got just this nonchalant fisherman just loving his life. I love this so much.
I mean, Grace, it's so nice that you think it's adorable. I think that they have claws the size of bananas.
Okay.
And that could rip my face right off.
You're killing the vibe, Courtney. Killing the vibe. No, I hear you.
Every time the bear would go behind him in the video, I watched this over the weekend, and every time the bear would go behind him in the video, I was like waiting for the bear to just like pop up behind him and chomp his head.
Well, you see the size comparison of when it stood up. I don't know if it was on its hind legs, but when it stood up, it was so tall and massive. But the bear looked happy. Like, the bear looked like it had a smile on its face. I don't know.
Right, the bear wanted nothing to do with the fishing guide because he had fish. He was good. He had his salmon. He was chowing down on. He was good. The fishing guide said in this part of Alaska that they really coexist with the bears, just because there's a lot of salmon, but there's also a lot of grizzly bears in that region. So he said they really coexist with the bears, and so clearly he's not afraid. He's comfortable. Good for him.
Good for him, and good for that bear. That salmon looked good.
Man,
some fresh salmon right out of the
fishing
river.
trip to Alaska, maybe in your future. A woman. This is also involving animals, but not the same kind. This happened in California. A woman had to be rushed to the hospital over the last weekend, because she was bitten by a rattlesnake lurking in the rose bushes in front of her house. Let's watch. There she goes, walking out to a rose bush. She's going to trim her rose bush, very casual, little Saturday afternoon. Ooh, and she gets bit by a rattlesnake. We had to turn the sound off on this one because there were a lot of obscenities used when she gets bit, which would be me also if this happened to me. But she says she just went out to trim her roses, and without warning, I felt what seemed like stepping on broken glass. Within a split second, that sharp pain turned into an intense burning sensation unlike anything I've ever experienced. Oh my goodness. Yes, she said she thought she stepped on glass or a bee, and then when she lifted the bush, she came face to face with the juvenile rattlesnake that bit her. She was rushed to the hospital, given anti-venom. So yeah, if you get to the hospital and you get the anti-venom, you'll be okay. But this is in California.
Yeah, I think LA.
So I wouldn't think twice. Now, if you live in Arizona, you would know better than to go out barefoot trimming bushes. I would not think twice about trimming my bushes bare feet. By the way, I go out and water my plants with no shoes on all the time.
Yeah.
But all that's at risk for me is stepping on a garter snake, which I do worry about. But
you're not a snake girl? You don't like snakes?
Oh, no.
I love snakes. Like, I've always wanted a pet snake, a little albino little snake.
No.
I don't know. I love them. But no rattlesnakes. Like, this would definitely traumatize me. And I know that the woman said that she's worried every time she steps outside of her door, which I would be too, because she's on concrete in the middle of her driveway. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what's wild, that this happened in Southern California, not in the desert, not in the mountains, not on a hike, right in her front yard.
Paul was probably the person to do this, because I'm just curious, like, how long does the venom take to cause someone to die? Like,
how long do you have before you can get the anti-venom?
Yeah, how long? I wonder how long you have, but
you don't have long. I know that. You don't have long.
6 to 48 hours.
Okay.
Okay, I thought it was shorter than that. Localized pain and swelling, it begins instantly, which I think she described as the stepping on broken glass. But 6 to 48 hours, still, you don't want to fool around with that. Ugh, gross.
Shall we move away from the animals, or should we stay on the animals? Do we want to show the shark?
Listen, we
this is
gotta
gonna traumatize.
warn people. So this video, it is a little bit sensitive and graphic for people.
No, we've shown worse on television, Grace, but
all
yeah.
right, whatever.
Yeah, always safe to give the warning. Yes, this one is terrifying. A diver recorded the moment that he was attacked by a shark while spearfishing off the coast of Fiji on July 19th. Let's just watch the footage. It speaks for itself. Yeah, so Gibbs said that he noticed the shark's agitation before it attacked and advised other divers around him to move on if the shark's behavior didn't change. So the shark then latched onto his calf and began death rolling, as Gibbs called it. After 4 surgeries and a skin graft, Gibbs said he's feeling incredibly lucky to still have his leg and full use of his foot. He's now on the mend. Yeah, so you can't really see the actual bite, but here's my gripe with this, Grace. He's out there spearfishing, okay? Yeah. So a lot of times when you spearfish, you have your catch with you. So if he was spearfishing and he had a dead fish with him, was he asking for it?
I don't know. And that's the question.
Because a lot of times they will swim around with like their catch, their bag of fish, because they're spearfishing. They can't get back to the boat, or maybe they just came in from shore, so they're swimming around with a bag of dead fish. Well, if you're swimming around with a bag of dead fish,
around sharks, yeah. I mean, what did Paul say earlier? It's like
he said it would be like carrying around a dead gazelle in the Serengeti.
Yeah, that's right. He always has such vivid.
It's not wrong, right?
It's not.
So I don't know. I don't know if this spear fisherman actually did have a bag of his catch with him. But
that shark came barreling towards him.
What was wild is how quick it happened. Like he was really far away. When you sent me the video, I was like, where is the shark? And he's really far away. And then it's like within a second, he's right there on his leg.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's just
he's in the
distance,
distance,
and then it's a little white dot, and then all of a sudden it's there. It's there. Wow.
Also, why didn't he just spear the shark?
I think I mean, that shark's obviously very strong. I don't know if I'm just shocked that he didn't drop the camera. Maybe the camera was attached to him, actually.
No, the camera's probably attached to him.
Okay, well. Whatever.
How did he drop his spear?
I don't think he dropped, I'm watching the video back. Yeah, he didn't drop the spear.
So I went spear fishing once.
You did? You're so brave. Tell me about it, Courtney. Of course you did.
I did. On my honeymoon in Belize.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm glad this didn't happen to me on my honeymoon. I lost my foot like a year later from a boat propeller, so I didn't need a shark.
No.
I do know people who've lost their feet to shark attacks. I probably should keep these conversations offline, shouldn't I? So anyway, yes, I went spearfishing for lobsters in Belize. It was incredible. I will say I wouldn't do it again. Okay. I didn't like, lobsters are smart animals, and I did not like the whole thing. They do this thing before. Yeah, I just
That's
wasn't
so sad.
Wasn't for me, but the lobster was fresh and delicious.
Oh well, there you go. Were you afraid of any sharks?
I wasn't. It was so shallow where we were doing it.
I suppose.
It was like 10, 12 feet. It wasn't super deep.
Okay.
We actually.
But still, sharks can.
Yeah, we swim out there from the shore, so it wasn't too deep. But in hindsight, yeah, I should have been scared of the sharks.
Yeah, seriously. Anytime I go snorkeling or I'm in water where it's deep, I'm always a little bit afraid, but it won't keep us out of the water. I know it won't keep you out of the water.
most humans have an irrational fear of sharks, right? Like just because
so.
of Jaws and the way that they're portrayed in the media. The fact of the matter is,
everyone's afraid.
The likelihood is low that you're going to actually get bitten by a shark.
When I was a kid, I had a very irrational fear that a shark was going to get me in a swimming pool. I don't know where that came from, but that was a fear that I had as a child.
Come in through the drain, yeah. Off the animal beat here, a bystander captured the moment a pickup truck briefly went airborne in North Texas using a buckled road as a ramp. Wow. Take a watch.
I missed it. I know.
Oh!
Oh my God!
Wow. That looked a little staged to me, but Gunnar Peschke filmed the video in which spectators can be heard whooping with joy as the truck jumps the massive bump on Joe Ramsey Boulevard in Greenville, Texas. This happened this past Thursday. So the region had experienced a lot of hot weather, and that caused the road to buckle. So the city had worked overnight to make the necessary repairs to the road. So the road is said to be fixed now. Grace, did you think that looked like that was their buddy? I think that was their buddy.
I think it might have been their
I think that was their buddy after a six-pack of beer.
I'm just saying. There was probably about 30 seconds that I cut off from the front of it where they were just filming cars going around it. I think they were waiting for that truck. But again, this is speculation. Yeah, I mean, because you kind of had to be intentional to drive over that.
Well, when they said, I missed it, I'm like...
Yeah. Don't do it, guys.
Felt like they told their buddy to go do this. Yeah. Like, your truck isn't as new as ours. You go do it.
He probably lost a bet.
Yeah, like we'll give you $100 if you do it.
Oh, and you know what? Some people, they're dumb enough to take that bet. So don't do it if you see a road buckled like that. You can't.
But also, like, where were the warning signs? I'm like looking at it.
That's true.
There's no
weren't
cones.
Any. No,
there's no cones. There's nothing. So this must have been pretty soon after the road buckled because there is no warning that this is coming. I'm impressed that these other cars knew to go around it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're looking for something fun to do in the summer, I don't recommend jumping over buckled roads. Not safe. MnDOT would not approve. We're going to take it to a quick break. When we get back, we'll wrap up the show with the last. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on All Day Live. I'm Courtney Godfrey. Really quick, tomorrow we are going to be interviewing yet another candidate. So all week, All Day Live is going to be interviewing candidates that are running in the primary election, U.S. Senate candidates, gubernatorial candidates. Tomorrow, Rob Olson is going to be interviewing Kendall Qualls, who's running as a Republican for governor. If you have any questions, submit them to fox9.com/allday. That's going to do it for us here today. We hope you have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Fox 9 News at 5.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Randy Meyer.
And I'm Kelsey Carlson. We are following several developing stories tonight. That includes Vance Belter back in court today. He's been convicted on federal charges, and now he's facing state charges. Corin Hoggard was in court today for us and will bring us up to speed on what happened. Also, Fox 9 investigator Paul Bloom obtaining a letter showing the Hennepin County attorney is encouraging the governor of Texas to extradite an ICE agent who is facing charges here in Minnesota. Also tonight, turning empty downtown real estate into high-tech hubs, and what we know about a data center that is coming to Minneapolis. And another sign that the NFL season is just around the corner. For the first time this training camp,